at Aurora University, quickly found out that being an administrator is absolutely not as fun as it seems. Not that it seems fun at all, but did the intern with that and thought, no, I want to pick band music. So kept at the band thing. Our school it started as Oswego High School many years ago, and then they built a real high school, and then they built a second junior high. So we now have 2 high schools and 5 middle schools, but it's the original building that I started in. We have a new building, but it's still Trauber. And last year was the 85th year of our band program, Don Stinson. So we're right behind you. And we're really lucky because in that 85 years, we've had 3 primary band directors at our program. And I think that's one of the things that's helped our program be particularly strong is just the longevity of the staff that comes in. And then lots and lots of times our assistants go on to open the other programs in the district. So we've really worked to keep everybody here long-term, which has been a great asset to our program, is keeping long-term directors.
Great, thanks to each of you. So let's start by if each of you could describe your programs, and that can include, what your program or school demographics look like, student demographics, program history, and then if you could also talk about how over time you have created a program that is welcoming to your constituents within your school and your program. So Rachel, why don't we start with you?
Our school, it has 1,100 kids in it, so it's a very large middle school. I looked it up to be sure. I thought these were our stats, but we're right now at about 64% white population, 21% Hispanic, 8% Black, 22% low income. So, we're a pretty interesting demographic mix for the suburbs, particularly the areas that are more rural. And we feel really strongly that our band program reflects those percentages and numbers. We're really proud of the cross-section of students we attract to the band program and keep in the band program. And I think one of the things that we work really hard to do with our kids is just be 100% genuine in our excitement to have them be part of the program, to really work to make sure it's a valuable experience for every child that walks in the door. And, one of the most fundamental philosophical things that I've come to over time is whatever child in my room needs the most support, whether it's because of a financial situation or they're not getting support at home, whatever the case may be, but whoever needs the most support, that's who I've been hired to teach. We see the focus so much on the high achieving kids, the kids who are the all-staters, and that's great, but I kind of feel like those kids are going to be successful just about no matter who's in front of them. We've worked really hard to have the water rise and bring all the boats up, if you would say, because the more we started focusing on our relationship with the kids and how do we support and enable those previously low achieving kids to move up and move along, we just saw our retention numbers explode. The band has performed better. It's sort of like when we stopped worrying about pushing the high end of things and started really focusing our energy and resources on pulling up everybody, the whole program exploded. Like I said, we have 1,100 kids in our building this last year. We have about 400 kids in band, grades 6 through 8, and we start our own beginners in 6th grade. We're our own feeder system, which is great for us because it's one less time they have to leave a building, and when they transition buildings is when they tend to drop. So from last year to this next year coming up, fingers crossed that the stay home order hasn't changed that too much, but we're looking at about 95% retention from last year into next year. And we're particularly proud of that once kids come in the program, they want to stay part of the band family and be part of our program long-term.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's go to Don.
Sure. So a little bit about our program and our school and our city, which, by the way, I'm going to give everybody just some information that I wish I had earlier, and you're probably smarter than me and you already have this. But a lot of the data that I pull out about our school is from our school report card. And if you're a band director and you haven't explored your school report card yet, or your district report card, dig in. I mean, that just tells us so much stuff. So, and also a comparison of it to the city can help quite a bit. So let me tell you about the school at Joliet Central. We're 73% low income. And in terms of our student demographics, I just want to make sure I give them exactly to you. We are about 64% Hispanic, 18% Black, 15% white, nearly 3% two or more races, 0.5% American Indian, 0.5% Asian. That's the school demographics. But when we talk about the demographics of the city of Joliet, the city of Joliet is 68% white, 16% African American, 0.5% Native American, 2% Asian, 0.02% Pacific Islander, 11.32% from other races, and 3% from two or more races. And then Hispanic Latino of any race were 27.84% of the population. So this is something I've been really interested in with our school, in that our school doesn't match the demographics of the city. But that being said, we do everything we can to make our band fit the demographics of the school. And we don't just stop at racial, ethnic diversity. Of course, we have low-income students, students with IEPs. We probably have 2 or 3 homeless students in the band each year, English learners as students, and a high amount of student mobility, kids that move in and out of the program. Attendance issues, chronic absenteeism, there's some dropout rate, and about 75% graduation rate. And I don't tell you all those things to paint Joliet Central as a bad place at all. I think it's a great school, but that's our reality. How that fits in with our band program at Joliet, as I mentioned earlier, you can look up all this historical stuff. I won't bore you with that. But you know, Joliet's primarily been a working class town. And that's stayed the same in some parts, changed in the others. But the band tradition there, you know, our band director, our first guy, was really good friends with the first director from U of I, and they were really involved with all of like how we do band in America. And we made sure back then that every kid adapted themselves to the band, and I think that's the major shift that we've tried to take, at least the past 10, 15 years before my time too, at Joliet, which is to make sure that the band starts to adapt to what our students need. So in the school, it's about 3,200 kids. Not a huge band at the school in comparison to, I guess, some national averages. We're actually at about 125 students in the band, which is pretty big for us. But we have everyone in the band. As I said, we've got 2 or 3 homeless students a year in the band. We have to make sure we get them some resources and that we adapt the program to help them become successful, and that we're also mindful of things like the McKinney-Vento Act for homeless students. We have 2 band programs. We have a non-audition band and an auditioned or director placement band. And we have freshmen through sophomores in both of those bands. We have beginners in both bands, our audition band and our non-audition band. We have just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of different people, but I think that's been, to me, one of my favorite parts of Joliet, is to see all of these people working towards this common goal. And, you know, one of the questions we had was, how do we create community among students from diverse backgrounds? You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There are issues, but at the same time, I look at what our students have done with their own sections. And I think that's where we have tried to create this sense of community almost through positive clicks. And I say that from the standpoint of, at our school, our percussion section represents most of the school, and they hang out as a percussion section. Our clarinet section represents most of the school, but they're very cliquey as a clarinet section. And those are things that I almost tried to foster in a sense, and help them have that sense of community within the band. Bands can be big places. Bands can sometimes be scary places for new people. and people of different backgrounds. But that's been at least the kind of introductory way that we have tried to help people become involved with it. But the other thing too with it is we really have shifted to a mindset that band and music is not a privilege. You don't have to earn it, and that it's not conditional. Okay, music should be unconditional and available for everybody. I know it's a generic statement, but I think it's something we just have to believe.
Great, thank you so much. And Corey?
All right. So Roma Middle School is a Roma ISD is a Title I district, making Roma Middle School one as well. My population is 99% Hispanic. It's like 99.8%. I think it's like 0.2% is white. So I am the diversity at my school. We are on 100% free lunch for the entire school district. But I say that in speaking to let everyone know that it doesn't matter what you come from, what you have, students are capable of doing anything. And I know sometimes people see that as a barrier. It's like, oh, well, you teach in a Title I district and you must have so many challenges. Well, everybody has challenges, but like we don't look at band as a challenge or a reason. This is an outlet. This is a place where these students excel and learn about life skills and things outside of music as well. Students have excelled at the regional, the state, national, even the international levels. Like they performed at Midwest. They've been named the TMEA Honor Band this last year. They just won the Sudler Cup. So like I just say that a lot too, like kids can do anything no matter where they are. We use that a lot to sell our program, but we sell the fun that is band. If it looks fun, then especially if you're in the 5th grade, you're gonna want to be a part of something that you're gonna feel comfortable doing and that you know that you're gonna be excited about attending at some point. I think a good way to sell your program is to get a great recruitment video out there for everyone to see and get the parents involved in that video of like, well, this is what my kid learned and this is what my kid has taken away from the band. And these are the life skills that they've learned. Because if other parents see that their students have had a good time and then the parents can talk about it, then that's a great way for your other people to say, well, I want them to be a part of that and have that same success because because Stephanie's kid's not going to do anything more than mine. So I also have the kids sell the program a lot too. When we do those recruitment concerts, to let the kids talk. And like it's one thing for me to talk, and I kind of feel like I'm a kid magnet, but it's a different thing if they have a peer tell them this is something cool, this is something you want to be a part of. I try to invite everyone to every performance there is. Like if it's going to be in the newspaper, it's going to be on the internet, it's going to be on a website. It's like, we're going to call you and say, hey, come on out here, because the more publicity that you get for your program, I feel like too, that's more welcoming it is, so they can see what it is. And I think another reason we have the retention that we have is that we try to make a relationship with every single kid. Like notice when like, oh, you got a new pair of shoes today. Oh, that's so awesome. Like just come on in. Like the more that you can make it a personal experience, that you're not just another number in the system, the more welcoming it is for that kid to be there. And we're just like, yeah, you gotta learn how to edutain too. Like it's okay to be silly. Like figure out what the latest trends are. Like I don't know squat about Fortnite, but I got a Fortnite t-shirt, went to that 5th grade campus and everybody wants to be in band. Like just be relative and like know what it is that's out there and let them know that you're a human first and foremost, and that you've got their best interest, and those kids will do anything that you ask them to do. So that's Roma Middle School.
Great, thank you. Should we take a break now and go check out Corey's TikTok? Is that how this works now?
Funny you should say it. I'm just kidding. No. I will drop a link though of that recruitment video I was talking about.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
We can share that out with all the other materials. So, all right. So Don hinted at this a little bit. So our next question is, just how do you create community amongst your students that, they come from diverse backgrounds, whether it be socioeconomic or racial, and amongst other things. And so, how do you build that community? And how do you build trust within your ensemble without it seeming forced upon them? So why don't we start with Don?
It's funny when you talk about trust. So this is my experience growing up as a low-income student and teaching in a low-income area, is that we have to remember, especially in high school, I have kids that are the head of household at home, metaphorically speaking, but also literally speaking. They're helping out at home. They are working. They are paying bills. Mom and dad are both working. Maybe mom or dad's not in the picture. So they're adults at home, and then they come to a place where they have to ask to go to the bathroom. And it's a very fascinating mindset sometimes. So, for me, I think the trust about everything was truly treating the students, the best that I could in their situation, being fair, of course, following the rules of the school, but empathizing, not pitying, but empathizing where students are coming from. And honesty is the big thing too. And what I was starting to say about students in a low income school, it's kind of funny because if you get on the podium or you stand in front of them and you say something that isn't rooted in truth, or if you say something that maybe doesn't make much sense, you're going to get called out on it. You're going to get called out on it. And one of the big things that we did to build trust was we encouraged that. So if you were to walk into my band room at Joliet, we occasionally, you'll see kids just get up and leave and go to another area and start working on something. Or you'll even see kids that will raise their hand and they will say, usually respectfully, they'll say, Mr. Stinson, are you going to be working with the clarinets much longer? And I know for some band directors, it's like, but we made that deal at the beginning of the year that we want to use their time wisely. And I told them, I said, I'm going to get fixated on something. And I said, if you get to a point where you start to get bored and I'm not using your time wisely, raise your hand, ask me if I'm going to be done. And I said, there's going to be two answers, either no, which means you can go up somewhere else and work on something, or yes, thanks for reminding me, and we go on. And that's been a huge thing from all of the students there, and it's been a big help. And creating the community among students from diverse backgrounds as well. I mean, with the band, we talk about this so much. I'm very honest about my situation. The kids are very honest about their situation, and I think it did help that I went to the school. So I will certainly say that that's an advantage of mine. But I think that honesty helps. And I think furthermore, we know that we're going towards a goal, whatever it might be, a concert, a performance, something like that. And I'm not going to try to sound like a broken record on the school report card, but we started using that school report card to program music. We started looking at that and we said, okay, who isn't represented, not just program music, but also to have people that look like the kids in there. So when we became more aware that, hey, we're really not serving our students of color very well when it comes to composition, and maybe this is just the competitive part of us in Joliet, we said, okay, we're not only going to play music from more diverse backgrounds, but we're gonna commission stuff. So we commissioned a piece by one of our alums, Jermaine Stiegel, and we even went up from that and we flew him out from LA to conduct the piece. We had a guest artist named Omar Al-Musfi come out and guest artist on a concert. He talked about growing up in Syria and how music wasn't there. And I think we can talk about it until we're blue in the face, but we have to show students that yes, they can do this too. Yes, there are people like them that are doing this, and we have to be just very, very deliberate to stand up for every single kid in the ensemble.
Love that. Thank you, Corey. You're muted.
It's got momentary laryngitis. There you go. I think commissions are really important, especially if you have a community where a lot of music is not written and that reflects that community. So I try to do that as much as possible. And I think the kids really enjoy that. Here, mariachi is so big. And so I feel like if that's the only medium that they hear, the music that's here, then everyone wants to be a mariachi. They don't want to be in band. So we try to make it as relevant as possible. So we do things with the commissions like that. But we also have the kids talk to each other every day. At some point in the rehearsal, I guess it's just my upbringing in a Black church. Like, we are talking to each other all the time. So like, tell your neighbor good job, tell your neighbor good job, and that's how we end every single rehearsal. And that reflects the teamwork that we talk about a lot, and that I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. I'm going to need your help. It doesn't matter what you look like, no matter where you come from. This is a team effort. Let's get this done. I think sectionals are a great way to build community too. If that is not something that you currently do, jump on that and make that work, because that's where the real work happens. But also that's where the real relationships are built, because it is in a more intimate environment. And not only are you learning the skills on your instrument, but you're learning about all the people who are in your section. And it's a great way for you to cheer them on and go help them when you know, like, they are struggling with something, but praise them too when they're doing something great. Summer band is also a time where it's really like can be difficult when you are jumping from 6th grade to 7th grade, and now you're about to be a part of an ability-based group, and like, whoa, there's a lot more notes on the page. So that can get a lot scarier. So that we use that a lot of the time to do icebreakers and like make them as fun as possible. Like, we'll do one where we turn on Vesuvius, and we'll have the kids, like, they can't step on the lava. So they've got to figure out how to get 10 kids from one side of the room to the other side of the room, only using 5 chairs. And that's like, well, if you want to get this done, you better figure out how to talk to somebody else and become a community real quick. And I was saying this before in the previous comment, was we have to know something about the kids too. And I feel like the better job you do of forming a relationship with a kid, and you may not have to know everything about their personal life, but notice something different about them and just make an effort to talk to everybody to let them know that they're an equal part of the machine and not just another kid that you're going to give a grade to.
Fantastic. And Rachel.
Okay, I'm trying to remember the question because I'm listening to these two guys like super intensely taking notes. And I'm like, wait, what were we talking about? So I think it was building trust with our ensemble. The thing that I think has worked for me for years is just consistency. The kids know what's expected, and I am consistent in how I communicate that expectation. Now, what is inconsistent or kind of the variable, my colleague and I, Josh Johnson, we try to sort of alternate between intensity and being complete goofballs, and then back to intensity and then goof. And, you know, we tell the kids, we're going to try to be, you know, fun with you guys, goofy, but then we got to go right back to work. And we try to do that all the time. And so the kids feel like it's a place, it's fun to go to class to see what crazy thing they're going to say or do today, or are they going to do like a crazy lip sync dancing around the room at the end of the class or whatever. But just that consistency of we have an expectation. We're not all over the place in what we're doing every day. It's really, they know what's going to happen when they walk in. And then the variable we hope within that is just kind of how we spice it up, how we interact with them, so that they're kind of waiting to see like what the heck's going to happen. Also, I liked what Don said, how I think we need to be really respectful of kids' time and energy, because nothing I think is more insulting than a time suck where they're just doing busy work, or you expect them to expend a lot of energy on something that's not worth it. Carefully selecting really good literature builds a lot of trust with the band, because I will get out a piece, will be like, all right, this is my favorite pieces. I only do this with my best groups and you guys are ready. And I'll talk to them about why I love it so much or why I picked this new piece, and kind of buy into that. You guys are worthy of this music, and pick music that's worthy of them. One of the things that we try to do is make sure every student feels like whatever situation they're bringing to us, no matter how unusual it might be, that it's okay, and to kind of normalize it to a degree. Like, we have a student who the last couple of years has transitioned from being born female and is now transitioning male. And we just try to, like, we love you, And that's where you're at right now. And just be really just even keeled on when kids bring things to us, or we see them going through things, or if we find out there's a really intense economic struggle. Hey, you know what? I've got stuff to help you out. You just rolling with it and accepting and being really as warm as possible when kids are dealing with something that's a little bit more unusual. I wore this shirt tonight because whenever I'm out, we're all human with the colors. And I initially bought this for our kids who are, like our one student was transitioning. We have several kids who are aware that they are gay at this point. They're figuring this out. And we want them to feel like we see you, who the human you are, not like the label of, I think Josh and I were saying, we only get mad if you push down the wrong fingering, not about who you are as a person. So when I'm out, I mean, Spencer Gifts is like the greatest resource in the world if you're a middle school teacher, because it has the most awful stuff that you can laugh about and could never bring into the classroom. But then you find these little gems in there of things that you can. So when I'm out, if I see any sort of t-shirt or like little posters or things that we can put up in the room, just that constant messaging to kids that we accept you and we love you, and this is a place where human rights count to us and matter, and we're going to embrace you and support you, whatever you are bringing into the room with you, with your life. And I think just us being like really normal about anything that they're dealing with, or what they come up with, or what they share with us, has helped them. And we're willing to make ourselves vulnerable as well. We tell some like crazy stories of things happen. We react in a real way, and we will explain to them, say, guys, we're people. So like if we get mad or we get frustrated, we say, I'm getting frustrated now and here's why, or I'm so happy right now, and we start crying in front of them, or we laugh our butts off like crazy over something funny that happens. Just being very authentic has really helped us build those relationships, so kids feel like it's a place where whoever they are is exactly who they should be.
I love all of that. Thank you. Okay, so our next question is, how have each of you communicated with your students in your programs during this stay-at-home order and all of this crazy COVID stuff? And kind of, what have your expectations been for them? And have those morphed or changed throughout the 3 months or so that we've been in quarantine? So we'll start with Corey.
Okay, well, the expectation to do the work has not changed, but maybe even the grading of some of that work may have been a little more lax. And that is just because you don't know everybody's situation. Like, you got kids sharing computers, if they even have the internet to do the assignment in the first place. So I am at this point trying to reward effort, and you are doing your part as a responsible band student to do what's expected of you. I'm going to give you great feedback about what it is, and ways that you like, ways that were great and things that need to be improved on. But at this point, it's you are putting the effort to get something done. And I try to give really extended deadlines for things to be done too, just to give ample time to get it done. We have used Zoom with some pretty good success. We've used Google Classroom with great success. We have been able to use something called OBS, which is the Open Broadcaster Software, to create videos for our students. Like, some of them may have forgotten their binder at the band hall and they don't have any music. Okay, well, that is my cue that I need to make a video, and a play along video, because I think too, that's something we can sometimes forget, is that kids are more apt to do something if they see you doing it with them. Like, they might see you doing it in the classroom anyway. So we'll use a notation system and put the music on while the video is going on at the same time. So it's kind of an inclusive experience, and the kids are getting a daily drill video. They're getting like, these are how you get through these types of scales and things like that. So that it feels as close to normal as possible. That's what I wanted to feel like. There is some normalcy to it, versus like you are having to be at the house the whole time. Well, you enjoyed band. This is your band instructor helping you get those things taken care of. But as far as expectations, nothing has changed. And I was going to say this a little earlier too, with making sure that you are being real with your students and creating positive connections. It's really important to tell students when things aren't going well, and you just being honest about that, because a part of growing in this craft is like having to redo it. Like it's never, everything is like, we have to learn about delayed gratification. And the younger the better, because you're not going to be amazing from day one. But when the students do get something right, you praise the bejesus out of it and like, oh my God, that was amazing, because that's when they like, okay, I finally get it. Like Mr. Graves has been waiting for me to get this right. Now I got it right. Now I want to do something else right. So in short, that's my answer.
Great, thank you. Rachel?
We actually set up pretty intense schedule because, first of all, our school made sure that, our district made sure that everybody had a device at home to use. So we checked out Chromebooks, we checked out band iPads. The internet provider in the area provided hookups for people that didn't have it, et cetera. So we were sure that all of our band kids were equipped, first of all, which gives us a little bit different playing field than others. Also, we went through, and anybody that left their materials at school, we went in, collected it, and then just did home delivery drop-offs, because we're not going to let a kid sit there for 3 months without an instrument when I live in the same town. So we just took care of that. And so we did do actually daily assignments, and our track, because we set up a group of goals before we started really diving into this. And one of them was just providing some sort of consistency and schedule and purpose for the kids on a daily basis, because one of the things that was so difficult was just weird amounts of free time, and then you'd have all this work to do. So we felt one of the things that would help the kids' mental health was just having consistent daily work. Some kids did it every single day. Some kids would wait till the end of the week. Some kids waited 7 weeks and then did all of it, which was fine. And and kind of like how Corey did, we didn't track necessarily their individual grades, but we tracked completion of the work, because we wanted to give the kids credit for, man, you got on and you did it. And we did a ton of smart music, which our kids all had. We used Google Classroom and Flipgrid for different kinds of projects. But you know, and at the end, it was funny because we had a handful of kids who just were like no-shows through the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, I'm calling my teaching partner. I'm like, you won't believe who turned in an assignment today. You're never going to believe this. Guess. And then we'd be like, can you believe it? And we'd be like, yes, we're giving them credit, because what's the goal? What is our end game? Our end game is that this kid finally decides, you know what? I need to do something. I need to pick up my horn. And I blew it off for 7 weeks, because you know what? That means nobody at home is helping them get it done. Because if a parent is supporting them, they're not letting them sit there for 7 weeks and play video games. So I think the biggest things beyond, you know, the technical stuff we assigned was, Josh and I worked really hard that our number one goal was to reinforce and make stronger our relationships with the kids and the families. We wanted at the end of this, every single band kid and every single band parent to go away thinking, man, those directors really had our back and they really cared about us and wanted to make sure we were doing okay. And I've said it many times that we talk about being a band family, and we say it all the time, band family. This was the time to walk the talk, you know, like, are you really willing to go that extra mile as if it was your own family member to take care of these kids and what they need? And we really made an effort to be available anytime they needed us, to drive an iPad over to their house, to walk them through something. I mean, Josh, my partner, did many, many individual online lessons with kids who were just overwhelmed or stressed out. So number one was our relationships. And I think that's going to stick with us going forward. We've always been focused on that, but even more so now, because in the end, that's really what making music is all about, is the relationships we're building with each other. And that became crystal clear. Number two, and I sent a message to my principal about this about halfway through, and I said, the difference among the kids isn't so much economic or availability of devices, it's parent attitude toward learning and work and school. The kids who have parents who are invested, who are making their kids sit down and do it, it didn't matter what economic bracket they're in, if the parents working for them, if the parent insisted it be done, it got done. And the parents that saw it as a hassle or an inconvenience, we try to figure that out pretty quickly and provide support to those kids, because that's a very uneven playing field when you're 11, 12, 13 years old and you don't have somebody at home helping you be disciplined. So that became really clear to us, and it really changed our mindset that, you know, a kid might not be lazy, but if their house is a little chaotic and there's no structure and there's no schedule, how in God's name is this kid going to make themselves get their horn out and play? You know, it's just changed our mindset. And then the third big thing was, you know, I know there's some low income in our district, but I had signed up to volunteer to do home deliveries of food service because I'm home. So I thought I can help out this way. And since I live here, and the poverty that I saw of kids going to our school, not necessarily band kids, but when I would deliver some of these meals to the homes, took my breath away, because we see the numbers, but until you walk up to a child's house and you see some of the conditions that they're trying to manage their lives in, and then we're mad at them about not having an assignment done or not bringing a supply with them. And then I realized these kids are in survival mode. Their families are in survival mode. There's no one helping them in some cases. So it really made me step back and kind of check myself and my own assumptions about what kind of life they're living and how they're supported, and like my own privilege, really. It made it very real when you walk up to that door and knock on the door and you see the conditions. And obviously kids can overcome any kind of conditions, but I'm just saying, knowing, you know, that some of our kids are living in $500,000 houses and some are living in a house that had a board nailed up for their door, really makes me think about how am I going to approach that when I go back to school, because these kids come with very different burdens and very different benefits when they walk into the door.
Thank you. All right, and Don.
I'll just be honest. Holy cow, did we have a terrible time. And I kind of lost my way a little bit there as a teacher. So just to kind of put things short, we, with the Joliet Central Band last year, sent an audition, and we were accepted to play at Lincoln Center in New York, a 35-minute performance. And we were going to be on the bill with composer Christopher Tin. So for you video game people, he made the music for Civilization 5 and won some Grammys for some other things. And we spent a year fundraising. We raised over $100,000 for the band to go. Every single kid in the symphonic band was going to go. And then a week before we were supposed to leave was when the stay-at-home order was enacted. So we dealt with an incredible amount of just broken hearts and hurt feelings and just overall, we'll say just even, you know, depression. And I'll say that from the student standpoint, the band parent standpoint, and my standpoint. So we go home, and then we start the e-learning thing. And our school is also a Title I district and has spent resources in the past on making sure every kid's got a device at home. And the first week we had great participation with the band activities. I was trying to figure it out. It wasn't a lot of instrumental stuff, but it was checking in, theory, etc. So we had about 98% check-in rate that first week. And then the second week we had 7%. I mean, it was like, it couldn't have fallen further from grace. At the same time as that, my wife and I, we have 5 children. On purpose, and ages 11, 9, 6, 3, and then 18 months. So 3 of them are in school. So basically what my life turned into was I was waking up about 3:45, 4 a.m. each day, and I was doing my work for about 4 hours or so and getting all of that stuff on there. The kids would get up. My own kids, I'd help them with breakfast and I'd help them do their e-learning. And it was just stressful overall. So as I said, eventually we had just no contact from some kids. So my role then shifted into not making sure a kid did, you know, like an online music assignment, but making sure the kid was okay. And so once I shifted over to this mindset of like, okay, let's do individual or duet student appointments, things like that, it started to get a little better. Everyone was just trying to figure it out. So it was a lot of connection, of course, over Zoom, over email, over the Remind text system. And, you know, my expectation of them at that point was just please let me know how you're doing. It got better as we went along, but we found some real things out. We found that so many of our kids, now that they were at home, I had so many kids whose parents either were telling them to, or the kids felt obligated, the kids wanted to go work full time. So we had a lot of our kids that just started working. They'd go work at Walgreens or whoever else was open at that point. One of my kids works at Dairy Queen, and he said he was the newest employee and the youngest employee. So his boss said, okay, you're the lowest risk and you're the lowest cost, so we're going to double your hours up. So that was one of the things we dealt with. I can tell you there's some light at the end of the tunnel. We do a lot of summer band at Joliet, and I shifted this year, and it has so far worked out great. I used Sign Up Genius, and I made a whole bunch of appointments, and I'm meeting with kids individually. When I say individually, I'm doing 20-minute sessions with 2 kids each. And this is one of those things that I wish I would have done earlier. I run a podcast on the side, and I interviewed a man named Rodney Dorsey, who's the band director Indiana University. And he told me that at the beginning of each year, he meets with every single one of his college students. And I'll tell you this, I wish I would have done that earlier. I always intended to, but I didn't. And we've been doing that this week and just talking to kids. They're setting their own goals. And now over the summer, I'm really happy to see that we've got like 60, 70 kids have been signing up for summer lessons. So we're doing 2 20-minute lessons a week and 1 master class each week over Zoom. So that's where we've been at. Our school has been pretty strict on us not accessing the school. We're not able to deliver anything. So we've had to adjust on that. 75% of the kids or so use a school-owned instrument. That's been difficult. So we've really had to just kind of shift into a different mindset to make sure that students are still getting a music education. But of course, as I said, just to make sure that they're okay. You know, at that point, survival was more important than Sousa.
Great, thank you. And now I'd like to welcome back Aries Golden, who will be taking over from here.
And I apologize in advance because my internet is being a little odd because of all the storms we had come through here earlier. But I'm thrilled to be here. Really enjoyed just listening into the last few minutes of everybody, of our guests, talking to us about what they've been doing and how they've been handling things with their students and within their programs. So this final question really is in our current events, and it's in what we're living with in our society today. And as they're affecting us, they're affecting our students. And just if you all could tell us a little bit more of how you've approached this with your students, if at all, or perhaps maybe more students, colleagues that you've been talking to through these, especially these last 2 to 3 weeks of things. Unless Rachel.
Oh, am I starting? Did you see me? All right,
Yes.
well, I'll be the first to admit, I call myself a doughy, middle-aged white lady. I haven't really, you know, here and there, I've had opportunities to directly address race relations and issues and concerns with my kids, but it's not something I've ever, you know, taken head on. And I'm sure, like many people, been too passive in my treatment of it. Now we've certainly have been very active in our to be conscious and aware of how we interact and treat each of our kids. You know, we love all of our kids and we want them to feel that and know that, but it's never been really a direct conversation. And some of you might know because I've been posting it like crazy, but we had been working with the composer Harrison Collins for the last 1.5 years on doing a commission. We do a lot of commissions, and so he's a young upcoming guy. So we had worked on a commission, and in May we had decided we're going to do this Vaughan Williams theme that nobody uses. We're going to do a theme and variation, grade 3, da 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 da. And then George Floyd was murdered, and Josh and I both got really upset about this. And, you know, we talked to Harrison, we said, we really need to change the direction of this project. We need to do something we need to have a response, an artistic response to this. That's our responsibility, because we feel like even though we have middle school kids, they are not too young to understand the effect of art in response to trauma, issues, joy, everything, but social injustice. So that project has taken off as a consortium. We're incorporating, one of my former students had posted a poem that was really the seed of the whole thing that will be incorporated. We're doing, one of my former students who's going to SCAD in the fall is doing a multimedia work for us. And we're in contact with a visual artist, a voice artist, and a teacher who can address some of the historical and source material for us in context. And all of that is going to be packaged so that people can have, especially I think middle-class white people, can have a way to more comfortably segue into that conversation with kids and acknowledge, hey, this isn't something I'm an expert at, but we need to learn. And we're going to include, curriculum guide, resources, articles. And Josh and I have both been studying quite a bit. We signed up for the U of I free online class. I'm doing another online class called like White Intensive 101, how to be an effective ally, and that's keep sticking your foot in your mouth. So the focus on the project isn't necessarily retelling anyone else's story. It's to kind of acknowledge where we've really fallen short, where we've really missed the mark. And how do we learn? How do we acknowledge what's happening? And how do we hopefully inform our kids in a way that they can make good decisions and move forward? Just in the last couple of days, the project has expanded to include, it will include vocal parts. And we just talked to somebody, we're going to have, Harrison's going to include a string arrangement of the piece, and we have a string editor that's going to help him work on that. So people can do it combined department-wise, or they can do it as each separate section of their departments. But it's something that we just feel, Josh and I have been going to like rallies and walks, and we've been making donations, and we've been reading articles, and we've been sharing things, but we wanted to also do something with our kids. So when we go back in the fall, we're going to have a social injustice unit where we can get a little deeper into this and let the kids talk and ask questions of them. What do you see? What do you feel? What's been your experience? And we're going to try to also set up privately a way for them to share that with us if they are not comfortable sharing experiences or things that they have concerns about within our classroom or school. They can share that privately with us as well. But we're learning. I mean, we don't pretend to have any answers, but we hope we can ask the right questions to get us at least having this conversation and talking and being open and trying to figure some things out.
That's great. And I really, I think anything we can do to help bridge the gap for our students is important in many settings, especially, and that's my opinion, and I will stand by that and move on. So thank you, Rachel, for sharing all of that. Can we hear from Corey next? Hi, Corey, since I just got here.
How's it going? Yeah, I'll let you in the room, girl. To be honest, everything that just has gone down happened right after we were dismissed from school. So I have not really had an opportunity to talk to my students about this. But I think it's my job, as the little diversity that they do see, to be the person that I want them to know that Black people are. That's really hard, because I talk to my students a lot too about like getting out of where we are, not because it's a bad place, but like the world is so big, you need to be able to go out and see other things too. And I say this because one time I remember there was a colleague of mine who really got on my case one time about not going to a specific competition that my band was involved in through a taping. Now, my thing about tapings is like, the CD is gonna do what it's gonna do. I can't rehearse the CD. It's gonna do well or it's not. It has nothing to do with my representation. The hard work is done. Let the CD do what it's gonna do. And he said, well, how dare you not be there for your students? I was like, you know what? You don't know why I wasn't there. It happened to be that I was gone because I was out teaching a band camp in an inner city school because the kids who live there don't see people like me, and they need to see people like me doing what I do. And so I say that to say our kids are a shadow of what we do. And if I want my students to know that all people are created equal, and that we want to have equality for everybody, and I need to treat them that same way too. I want them to know that when they go out in the world, there are great people that they have as role models. And no matter if you have different beliefs or not, then you still treat them as a human. So I'm kind of interested to see what it's going to be like when I go back to school. I've gotten a few messages from students like, Mr. Graves, I didn't know, or Mr. Graves, how are you during this time? Which I think lets me know I am doing my job in some respect, for them to even to come out and ask me those questions if I'm not in during the school year. But I think it's just really important that we constantly talk about how everyone's important, and we all have something to contribute, no matter where you come from, no matter your background.
I could not agree more. And especially with the idea of us going out and doing things in the community, so that really students can see people that look like we do, for lack of a better way to put it. So I really appreciate hearing that coming from you, because I've thought that for a long time, and I thought it was just perhaps me.
No, I didn't have my first Black teacher until well into college. Well, no, that's not true. I went in 5th grade, but that was a long gap to not see somebody that I wanted to be.
Absolutely. There are people, I put a thing I'm known to do on Facebook asking that question. There's a little meme. It's like, when did you have your first Black teacher? And some people literally went all the way through college and never had one. So I just think that that's fascinating to me, and says a lot of things which may or may not fit into our discussion this evening, but indeed does say a lot of things if you stop and think about that. Thank you, Corey. And Don, can we hear from you now?
Sure. It's interesting, piggybacking off of that, I saw that social media post, and some of what I'll say maybe paints Joliet as progressive, and some of it not. My principal in Joliet in 1st grade was Black, and my first Black teacher was in 3rd grade. But that being said, it was interesting growing up in my town, because the more I reflect on it, we just saw some real racism. And I'm talking being in elementary school, and there'd be 2 white kids and a Black kid that all 3 forgot their homework, and the teacher clearly treated the Black kid with a little bit more animosity, and that ended up being a regular occurrence, not with all teachers, but with more than it should have been. So it's interesting, because we had, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling this story, I don't think he will, but we have a Joliet Central alum named Phil Clark, who was the first Black drum major at Joliet Central. And he, my first year out, volunteered his time to do some saxophone lessons, and brought him in, and he helped out and was fantastic. So for one of our concerts, I said, I want you to guest conduct. So he guest conducted a piece written for us, March of the Steelmen. And he stood up, this is 4 years ago, and he stood up to the kids and told them the story about when he was selected drum major back in, I think it was 1969, 1970, that he was really happy about it. And then the next week, the band director got hate mail from old alums by that. And I remember at that point just going whoa. And this is not to take away from Phil. The band director at that point wrote those people back. He was 22, and he said, we don't need your support if you're going to do that. So what that brings me into is a couple of things with our students, is that number one, I think just don't be afraid to ask honest, legitimate questions of the students. Obviously, you're going to have to tailor it depending on the grade level. High schoolers, it's going to be a little bit easier to approach that from an adult perspective, because again, these kids are dealing with adult situations there. But the other part of that as well is, as I said, it's being aware of it. It's asking students those questions, And if you don't know something, you know, trying to receive clarification on that. And the students, you know, the ones that I've talked to about it, they will give you honest answers. And, you know, it was interesting to me because there was two levels of reality and heartbreak with it. And the first level was that almost all the kids had experienced, our students of color had experienced some sort of racism. And then the next level of that is a lot of kids just said, well, that's just how it is. And that was the part that's like, oh, that's, you know, and I say that they said, we're used to it. You know, we're used to it. We have to let it roll off our back. And this was 2-3 years ago. And that was one of those like types of moments, you know, and some of them said, we just have to get back to work. We have to prove ourselves. But then, of course, there were quite a few others that were just mad, as they should be. So, you know, for me, it was identifying that there's just some real issues that, you know, can I imagine them? I'm not, I guess I can imagine them, but to try to step in some of their shoes, I mean, it's crazy. You know, I was talking to one of the kids once when Black Panther came out, and I'm not trying to, you know, playing the Marvel Comics thing or anything, but I remember talking to this kid and he was so excited about the movie. And I was just honest with him. And I told him, you know, it's funny. I said, I can't really identify with Black Panther. And I said, but you probably can't identify as much with, you know, maybe some of the white superheroes. And he goes, well, yes and no. He goes, that's all we had. And I said, okay. I said, that's, you know, a fascinating thing to think about. But he was explaining to me really how important that was to see people and see people in positions of power and respect, even in the fictional setting there. And you know, he was funny. He was a senior at that point. He's like, the fiction is great, but we want to see more of the reality as well there. So, you know, we're talking about it constantly with colleagues. We're talking about it with students now as they're kind of checking in on the Zoom meetings, asking them how they are. My honest question that I always have for and this is to anybody out there too, you know, my honest question for myself, it really is what can I do to help? Because to me, I have a lot of trouble figuring out what to do because I feel like I can either like and share a Facebook post or I can go to Washington, D.C. and protest. And that's the part where I'm trying to find more things in, I don't want to say just in the middle to do, but I've talked with some friends about, you know, how I can support more and what I can do. So as I said, for me, it's just really trying to find more understanding with it. It's being there for the kids the best that I can. But I'll be honest with you too. There are some students, I remember talking with them, and I said, I can help you in any way that I can, but would you feel more comfortable talking to our saxophone teacher, Mr. Clark, who's dealt with this? And they said, absolutely. So that's one of those things where I think we can point students in the right direction to help them out. But we need to do whatever we can to get them the help, the support, and the understanding. I know I'm going on a little bit. The other thing, I think as band directors too, where we depend on a lot of community support and we depend on fundraising.
I think we lost Don there for a second. Well, we'll if we get him back, there's we're getting the remnants of a hurricane over here, lots of winds and things like that. So hopefully we can get him back. So first of all, I just want to echo everything that our wonderful panel has said here tonight. So much, like I've learned so much, and it's really enlightening to just hear all those different perspectives. So thank you for that. As far as the representation element of it, just a short story I want to share is we here at the University of Illinois had one of our we had a Black clarinetist in the Wind Symphony, our top group here, who got to perform Omar Thomas's "Come Sunday" this past fall, I believe it was, and was brought to tears after the first rehearsal, just the reading of it. And when we talked to that student after, he said to us, you know, I've never been able to play my music before. I've always had to play everyone else's music. And it was special to do that. So we do make a difference. And so thank you for all of your hard work and perspectives, and we appreciate that so much. So before we wrap things up and thank our panel, just to let you know, we are going to be taking next week off. We are planning to attend, and we hope you will attend as well, William Lake's session titled Giving Voice to the Pain. And that is, I'm posting the link to the registration in the chat there. And so I hope you all will take a look at that. Again, that is next week, Wednesday. That's where we'll be, and we hope you will as well. The following week, which is the 24th of June, we are very excited to have orchestral conductor and speaker Benjamin Zander is going to be joining us, co-author of The Art of Possibility. And if you haven't seen his TED Talk on the TED website titled The Transformative Power of Classical Music, I encourage you to check that out. So we are very excited to have him on as well. So great. Well, with that, thank you to our wonderful panel, Rachel, Corey, and Don, for sharing with us, and to my amazing co-host, Aris, for all of your help and guidance as well. So thank you all again for joining us this evening, and we will see you hopefully in 2 weeks.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you.